Today we're here at Fern Acres Nursery and we're looking for ferns that are suited for growing on patios and in small courtyards. Over to Robin from Fern Acres to tell us all about them.
This is the Blechnum silver lady. This is a dwarf tree fern, a Pacific Island tree fern, but quite suitable for growing in Melbourne's climate. It's really suitable as a pot plant, but it does also do very well in the garden. It'll give structure and a little bit of height to an area where you want that, and it will also provide protection for things growing underneath. It grows to about 2 meters high and it is not overly wide, unlike some tree ferns where the foliage itself can get to 2 or 3 meters. So it's a compact variety, as I said, a dwarf variety of tree fern. The stem of the tree fern is a very dark brown or black, which contrasts beautifully with the bright green of the foliage. This is Pteris albo-liniata, the variegated brake. It has a wide white stripe down the middle of the leaflets. This fern is quite appealing because it gives a focal point amongst other ferns. It's a subtropical species that is quite slow growing in Melbourne's temperate climate, but produces lots of elegant arching foliage. The new growth tends to emerge from the centre of the plant, then arch over as they unfurl. It grows to around 70 centimetres high. Next to it we have Dryopeteris erythrossora. This fern is one of my favourites due to its colourful foliage. It is an Asian fern and is quite tough once established. New growth comes with a pinky red tinge, then, as its name implies, goes through autumnal changes. Eventually the fronds are a soft bright green and then harden off to a dark glossy green. It's quite suitable for pots or in the ground. This fern is Pteris dentata, or the toothed brake. This is a very tough African fern. Once it's established, it can enjoy a much more exposed position with quite a bit of sun. It has very erect serrated foliage of a very vibrant green. Growing to nearly 1 metre high, it forms a dense clump of bright foliage. It's also suitable for growing indoors. This is Microsorum diversifolium, or Kangaroo Fern, a very Australian fern. It grows on a rhizome and is happy to grow in a pot or a basket, in the garden, in a tub, or on a stump or a tree or post. Not overly tall but bushy and requiring little attention. Its rhizome is quite thick, about the thickness of your finger, and that will creep over the edge of a pot or a basket, and if it's in the ground, it will trail across the ground and fill in spaces amongst other things.
So with this one we can see the spores on the back of it.
Yes.
At the moment?
It's got another name, or another variety of this fern has another name called pustulatum, and it's just the pustules of spore that form on the back of the leaf and give it a dimpled look.
So the spores give it this texture?
Yeah. When the spore is ripe, as you can see, there's spore, that's mature spore caps, and the spore is underneath those spore caps, and it's quite prolific in doing that, but you rarely get plants taking off at random. This plant is Asplenium flabelifolium, or necklace fern. This little fern is amazing and very versatile. It is a semi-epiphyte, meaning that it can be grown in a variety of ways. It is happy to grow in the ground, in a rock or timber retaining wall between the courses, in a hanging basket, or even in an old bird bath, as you can see beside you. It will occasionally start new plants on the end of the older fronds to form a chain of plants. It's not particularly tall, but in filling in little spaces, it is perfect. These are varieties of bird's nest ferns. There's many different varieties of bird's nest fern with different leaf types. These are beautiful ferns for growing in small spaces, although eventually they will get quite large, and they're quite versatile in that they're happy to go indoors or outdoors in protected shady positions. But they require little in the way of potting up, and they require little in the way of watering.
We'd like to thank Robin from Fernacres Nursery for giving us all this information on ferns for small patios and courtyards. We've a separate video on bird's nest ferns, and we'll put a link to that in the notes below the video. There are other videos on staghorn and elkhorn ferns, maidenhair ferns, and a few others with more to come. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for regular updates on a whole range of garden plants, and as always, good luck with your gardening.